Hey, welcome to the channel, Scott's Garage HTX. Don't forget the HTX. I'm going to break this episode up into two subject lines. The first being on this. Last time I put these handguards, the last episode I put these handguards on the KTM, and when I stepped away I looked at it and said, that doesn't look right. I had them swapped. And I even made a note in it in the video itself, and a couple of people wrote in and said, yeah dude, that's wrong. So I have switched them to where they are correct, and I also pushed them out towards the end of the handlebars, so a little bit more coverage there. The other thing I was going to talk about too on the KTM is several episodes ago, I had taken the 93 octane pump gas out of this tank. Because when I looked at the owner's manual, and hey, I did actually peruse through the owner's manual, on page 32 it said 95 octane. And it really didn't say much more than that. And if you looked real underneath that designation, it had something referencing page 139. And I guess I didn't really look at page 139. And on page 139, it further clarifies 95 octane, the RON or RON measure of octane. And I wasn't really sure what that was. Well, I didn't pay attention to it at the time. But to kind of carry the subject a little bit further, like if you go to the pump, and you'll notice on the pump when you go and it says 87, 91, 93 octane, whatever you have, it'll say M plus R divided by 2. Or the average of M and R, which is MOR, measure of octane, and the RON, measure of octane. I think one has to do with higher speeds and higher temperatures when they measure the octane, and one is at lower RPMs and lower speeds when you measure octane. Either way, what the deal is that I'm getting to is I wasn't really familiar with the RON designation of octane. And so I was thinking, I need to take this out of here. I really didn't need to, because 95 RON octane, as some people pointed out to me, is the equivalent to 91 pump octane that we get here. And yeah, so I learned something on that. I didn't know. It was like, well, how should I have known that? And I asked some of my customers. I asked like 70 of my customers one day that came in, and only one knew anything about the RON or RON designated octane rating. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I didn't need to take out the 93 octane pump gas out of here as far as the octane rating goes, because that's equivalent to 91. It was fine. I still like that I took the pump gas out of here, because I'm not a big fan of ethanol or some of the contaminants in there. So what I put in here was 110 octane, leaded, no ethanol. So that's similar to what I do on my race car as well. Anyway, to carry that on, I appreciate people writing in on that. Very, very helpful. I do like the comments. The other thing on the KTM was I was trying to download the instructions on the KTM for installing these things and installing the skid plate here. And I wasn't really able to do that, even though it said it was easy to do. And so I called the KTM dealership, and they said, yeah, it's kind of misleading when you go out to that website. They're actually asking for the number of the service manual. So I said, well, give me the number of the service manual and I'll order it. They didn't know. So I don't have an answer for you. I think I said last episode I'd have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the computer into the dealership and show them the website and ask the KTM guy behind there to help me out at the parts department. Or if they have a service manual for it, I'll buy it there. Anyway, the other part of the video I want you to watch, we went in the shop and did a quick video on some service items, and take a look at that, and then we'll wrap things up. Thanks a lot. I want to cover something that seems small but can be large, and that is taking off these engine covers on these cars. It's a good idea to find out how they fasten on, you know, kind of feel around and see where the tension points are. And in the case of this one, it has 4 receptacles which have rubber gauntlets in it, and they go on these little round nubbins right there. Right? So on this particular engine cover, it's good to go pull from this, pull from here, excuse me, and pour from here, and pull from here, right? Excuse me, still working shop, right? And that way you can remove the engine cover like this. Do not do what one of my employees just did, and don't worry though, there will be an education on this for him. Do not grab the engine cover and just pull up on it, right? And the reason why is this engine cover, and many of them, they surround a lot of things, right? And what happens, or can happen, you can break some of these fittings around here. And this particular car, an Audi, is notorious for plastic fittings. And what happens with these plastic fittings is after heat cycle and heat cycle and heat cycle and heat cycle, basically they get brittle. So what can happen is you can break some of these fittings when you put that bond, because it hits, if you raise up from this forward, you can hit these fittings. And that's exactly what happened. You can see over here, this was a fitting and it's busted right here.
Hey, Mike.
And well, I had to go get another one, right? It's 55 bucks. It's not that big of a deal, but it is a big deal to the customer, right? Because no, they're not driving their car. And luckily, I was able to fix this during their lunch hour. It was a quick fix. I had to run around town and get some stuff. But what's important here is taking accountability of this item, basically. Let me get out of the shop real quick. It's really loud. So what's important here, basically, is taking accountability of it and finding out what you've done wrong. Sometimes, yes, I understand these fittings get very, very brittle and you take off one and the next one breaks. That's not the case with this. This is a service that's done improperly, basically. The engine cover is taken off with rashness, I would say, like a bull in a china shop, and that's not the way to do that. The way to do it is have some mechanical know-how and knowledge and common sense on how things are put together. That's important, because if you don't take that accountability and then the individual thinks, well, it just broke, then they're not going to learn, they're not going to grow, they're not going to develop. And the next time it comes in, since it wasn't their fault, right, they're just going to do the same thing again. And it's like potluck, it's like Russian roulette. Is it going to break or is it going to break? That's the important part. And that's where I move on from individuals. If they can't take that type of accountability and grow from it and just think it's just, the car's fault, oh, it just broke, then they have to move on, because it's just going to be another problem, another problem, another problem. This is important because I try to do the same thing. This will probably translate into one of my a video that's coming out. I've been trying to put on a skid plate on my KTM. And on the website, it says this part fits this bike. And also it says in bold letters, easy install. I have not encountered that yet. So I do think it's a KTM issue. I don't think it's a me issue. But before I blow that out to YouTube and say that with utmost confidence, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the dealership, give it to a professional, and say, put this part on that KTM says is the right part for this bike, and give it back. And one or two things is going to happen. They're going to put it on, and I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask them, hey, how did you do this? Because I wasn't able to do it and tried for 3 hours. Or they're going to say, hey, this part doesn't fit this bike. We're having problems with some of these part numbers not really matching up. And then I can go out to YouTube and say, hey, don't buy this part thinking you're going to put it on this bike because it's not going to fit. Basically, I did the legwork for you, and then I can blow it out there. Anyway, that's the deal with this. I'm going to put this part on, and I'll show you when it's done. All right, now it's fixed. This fitting to this fitting, the fitting down inside there is all done. No leaks, and crisis averted. Just happens sometimes. So we'll educate that one employee and move on from there. You guys keep on keeping on. We'll catch you next time. Some of the stuff I got coming up, like I said, that skid plate, I need to go full circle on that. Got the RX-7 back. I need to put the interior back in that, so we'll show that as well. RX-7 looks great after it's done with the body work. Catch you next time. Bye.